Greetings, namaste, and a warm welcome to you all. Hey, thank you for deciding to join me for this reading. This is the Psy predictions or collective conscious earth readings for June 2020. Well, what a year it has unravelled to be for us all globally. And at this point in the year, the halfway mark, the solstice event, winter and summer solstice periods, and also eclipse season, I thought it was wise to take the time to do an extended global predictions and collective conscious reading and see what we can pick up on as we all embark on the second half of 2020. A lot of us are moving out of the last few months of quiet time or lockdown time, whereas other parts of the world are moving into it. So it's kind of like a rolling ball or a continual perpetual motion event that's taking place. Now, if we look at June from an astrological perspective, it's a very, very busy, intense month. But hey, the whole year has been so far. And I think many astrologers predicted 2020 to be a very profound year. So we kick off into June with some of these dates as the following major points, one could say. So on June the 5th, we have a full moon partial eclipse, a partial lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. Now, viewing to see that will be from almost all of the earth. So a lot of the countries of the earth and the people on it will be affected by the June the 5th full moon partial lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So it's a big one with a lot of powerful emotion. On the 18th of June, we have Mercury stationing retrograde in Cancer. On the 20th of June, in the Northern Hemisphere, you have the summer solstice. In the Southern Hemisphere, we have the winter solstice. On the 21st of June, we have the second eclipse for the month, which is the new moon in Cancer and the solar eclipse. Now that will affect more on the planet in terms of physical or geographical locations. It will affect China, India and lower parts of Europe more than the rest of the world. On the 23rd of June, we have Neptune stationing retrograde, and on the 30th we have Jupiter conjunct Pluto. It's a universal month of number 1, which can be very good for starting projects or for heading in a new direction. June may also be a month of emotional roller coasters, feeling very up and down, partly because of the Cancer energies that will be navigating through the month. Also because of Neptune and Neptune stationing retrograde on the 23rd of June, those energies can be difficult to navigate, and it's in its home sign of Pisces. So we could run into murky misunderstandings or even fantasies that come true. So it's a kind of an unusual energy, Neptune. It tends to have the ability to set us all asunder, and things can go in very unusual directions. My feeling is we're halfway through the year, obviously, but we're halfway through something that's way bigger. It's almost as if we're halfway through a cycle of something that's occurring this year at the deeper thread, maybe the subconscious thread or the spiritual. But I'm also wondering if that message could be referring to, are we halfway through the virus thing? You know, and we see that globally around the world. Half of the world has literally had it and coming out of it. But there's also the propensity for this possibility of a second wave coming, which is something we all need to be aware of. Now, I did do a few cards for some countries earlier because I wanted to do a bit of an extended reading, but perhaps I'll work on each country individually with these cards as well and give you some of the messages that turned up as we're doing the reading. So let's start with the tarot deck, the Rider-Waite, and we're only going to pull a couple from here. So this is for June, for 2020. What are the energies that are surrounding the planet at the moment? And clearly we know that finances or money, the earth sign energy, Capricorn, is very prevalent around the planet. So that Knight of Pentacles sort of deals with also our policies and politics and governments in the world as well. It's a very stable but slow energy when we're dealing with the pentacles that come in. And it could be that money is on our mind, or our financial institutions, and how do we maintain them or maintain the integrity of them, or move them forward with new propositions or ideas or concepts. And that's kind of in the planning stages at this point as well. The King of Cups is exactly where we're moving into the Cancer energy, and there is a lot of compassion, there's a lot of emotion associated with Cancer and that sign, and this could be a heightened time of emotions on the planet. He also brings things from the heart, and he is concerned about people or situations or cohesiveness and healing. A lot of those energies are also what the King of Cups does. He could be referencing a political leader who has that particular sign. There might be something about a politician who, for some reason or another, is a water sign and is playing a role or is mentioned a lot in the month of June. There's also a degree of hidden agenda sometimes with these type of energies as well, so hiding some information, sometimes in terms of thinking it's better to hide it rather than tell everyone the truth. So this could be a little bit about hidden information or hidden agendas as well. It could also represent that there is just this bond of bringing people together because of something that happens in the month of June globally. And I do think that we have united as a planet, and we've seen the beautiful heartfelt things that have been traversing people's energy fields, such as the appreciation for the health workers globally. You know, the older man in England, Captain Tom, who raised £66 million for the health workers because of his walk that he did, and he has just turned 100 as well, and I think he's being knighted by the Queen in June. So it could be compassionate events like that that also come to the surface when you get something like the King of Cups come out. But I do notice that we've already got 2 court cards in this reading, which does reference people, and so the month will be dealing with what's going on with us as a people on the planet, and also the people who are doing the dealings. So people are on our mind, or situations with people. That's a really nice card to have come out. That's the 10 of Cups. So we've got more of this emotional or cups energy coming into the foray. The 10 is like the ending of a cycle, and it's the feeling of completion or the feeling of yay, achievement, and even perhaps some degree of freedom or bonding or togetherness. There's children outside playing, and I know through a lot of parts of Europe the children haven't been able to be outside for months and months, so there could be some freedom coming in terms of that, and we may be feeling a little more joyous or happy, or maybe there are even some prominent celebrations or events that take place over the month of June as well. It does feel to me as though our emotions are definitely in full swing in June, and we are captivated by something maybe compassionate or compassionate event that takes place. There's also a degree of lightening up of energies and a feeling of a little bit more happiness or coming to the conclusion of something, and I think a lot of people will start to feel that. So let's just take a look at what the Cycards have to say for June 2020. So this is collective conscious energies and looking into what is happening around Earth and with the people for June 2020. Work and the skills. It is something that's on a lot of people's minds because so many different places of employment have suffered a huge hit from the virus issues. So we know that a lot of places, especially tourism, hospitality, and all of the different arms of hospitality, including things such as restaurants, cafes, holidays, travel, hotels, Airbnb, everything that really the general average person was involved with one way or another, whether they were using it, servicing it, buying it or selling it, have all been affected to a huge degree, which in turn will change the way money flows around the globe for some time. But there is a lot of propensity from governments to try and stimulate their own economies, which in turn will help to stimulate possibly external economies or foreign economies than themselves as well. So we have the stars, we have destruction, we have the liar, we have the moon, and we have the beast. So those ones that came out after the work and the skills, unfortunately, are not the best. They're quite powerful cards in their own right. The moon makes sense because we have the two eclipses in and around June, and of all things, one of the eclipses is on the 21st of June, and that one actually has the number the 21st. Oh wow, it's even more profound. It's in the sign Cancer. And that is the sign of Cancer, there is the crab. So we have an eclipse on the 21st of June in Cancer, and that card is exactly telling us that that is what's happening. We also have above the moon the stars as well, which is the 22nd, and I think on the 23rd of June we have Neptune stationing retrograde, and on the 20th is the summer and winter solstice. So we're referencing again really heavily that period in June around that second eclipse and around the solstice period in terms of the numbering we're seeing here on these cards. The stars card is a bit of an enigma. It does reference to me more often than not that something is in the stars and it is not for us to decide. So it's what you call a bigger event card. It's like the major arcanas in the normal tarot decks, as if to say that the universe is pulling the deals or the stoppers on this, and that the universe is making the outcome, not us. Because oftentimes in the here and now, we as humans on the planet are in a position to make the final destination of an outcome. But when something like the stars or the puzzle card turn up, there's a bigger hand at play. Also, the first eclipse falls in the Milky Way, way up in the stars in the area of Sagittarius. So this could be aligning with that as well. I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, that the eclipses in June are going to be very, very powerful. Also that with all the planets that are retrograde and the Pluto and Jupiter conjunction at the end of June are going to play very, very powerful, important roles in what is going to take place in the month of June. But this also leads us further into the year and how we step into the second half of what is turning out to be quite a dramatic year. And those two cards are aligned as well, above and below each other, as above so below type thing. So I think that there is a great deal of bigger power that's playing a role in our destiny at the moment. And there is talk that these outer planets that are pulling all the energy or putting all the punches out there, they are so slow moving that they take many thousands of years to do a full circle. And these are the current activations that are taking place. And so the intensity of their activations is incredibly powerful and immense, and this is what we are currently experiencing. So this is another reason why we're in this cycle of unbelievable change, different perspectives and events that we have, that the likes of us who are living have not seen or experienced before. If we come back to the first card, which we touched on briefly, the work card, I think it is very much about getting the mechanisms and the wheels of employment or activation or machinery or movement moving again. Now, I have in the past often said that the work card aligns with big engines, things like ships, planes, trains, buses, boats, all of those type of things. But given that there are so few of them actually in movement around the earth at the moment, it could indicate that particular energy, and oftentimes it means that there is something wrong with those engines. So you may see some boating or shipping accidents or incidents, as well as planes. The other thing that I do think it is mentioning is the grinding activity of work taking place again. So more and more people going back to work, more industrial machinery and equipment and big plants and manufacturing and production and such like starting up again globally for a lot of countries. The other thing that the work card often talks about is a timing issue, because I sometimes see all those wheels as if it was the inner workings of a timepiece, such as a clock or a watch. And so sometimes time plays a role here when we're in this dimension, when this card comes out. Now, I'm not sure what reference we're talking about, but sometimes we're talking either things aligned to the past, or to parallel universes, or to different concepts, or to things in the future. If we go to the card next to it, the skills is again often talking about having the skills set to be able to perform a certain task, to undertake something. So it's hinting at the fact that we maybe have the skills to get through something, or to activate something, or to do it, or start it. It also, though, does always point to me to a little bit of warring tensions, because that is a bow and arrow. It also points to things that have come up and come down again, because they've shot the arrows up and then they've come down. So that can be things coming from the sky, such as rockets, and I really hope that's not the case with the SpaceX NASA launch that's about to happen in a few days. Actually, it might be later this week, so I hope that that is safe. But that is actually the big workings of an engine, like a big rocket taking off. It can mean that things do come down from space. So it could be asteroids or meteorites or comets that we see, and it also can have to do with planetary alignments. There's a lot up here that is talking about maybe planetary alignments, and the area that we're traversing at the moment is forming our structures, or forming the reality that we're currently living in, and that it is really intense, like it's a full-on powerhouse situation. So the skills can also mean fighting, because they're weapons, a bow and arrow. So it can mean hand-to-hand or combat fighting going on. And we see that also with the destruction card down here, which can also indicate a similar energy. So if we come across to the stars up here, we're talking again about being up in space. So maybe this has to do with the space travel, with the SpaceX NASA rocket that's going up. It could have to do with other information pertaining to space, stars, astronomy, knowledge, information, activity, travel, all sorts of things. So there's that potentiality for that stars card as well. But it also has a degree of unknown endings, or an unforeseen forecast of some sort that is taking shape, and it is formulating at the moment. We have the destruction card down here, never a nice card for a reading. It does mean often fiery events, and this can be in terms of people creating like animosity and anger and wild attitudes and behaviour, so aggression. Now we're seeing this again swelling up in Hong Kong at the moment, and then China coming in to put them back in their place. So there could be more attitudes like that welling up again, and it might be political based or country based. It can be up in the older parts of the globe, because the buildings suggest that. They look like they're from the Crusades areas, so up around through Europe or the Middle East, or up and through China, places where there have been populations on the earth for the longest period of time. It can also represent fires, big fires, and we're in a timeline at the moment where Mars is quite active, and I think it's a very volatile period, and we will see more explosive events such as explosions, detonations, fires, activations, fighting. So that's kind of part and parcel of the background energies as well. It can also represent disease and ill health, because this guy down the front here with his face bloodied and his eyes all coming to grief, he's possibly dead by now, but it looks a little bit disease ridden as well. So there is a possibility that the disease is still rampant in some place and causing destruction. The liar and the beast kind of go hand in hand. This can be deception, it can be hidden agenda, it can be political motives, it can be leaders around the world from countries that often hide attitudes or behaviours or political agendas or things along those lines. So the top countries we all probably automatically think of are perhaps China, Russia, North Korea, maybe places through the Middle East, Syria, Iraq, things like that. So those leaders or those countries may be jumping around, creating a bit of action and a bit of energy. The liar can also represent political problems for leaders, so not just like action or activity or warring or missile firing, but political instability as well. So we may see some political parties change, you may see some coups or some takeovers. There could be that type of action, and there could be ousted information put out to the public that changes perceptions for people about their leaders or the governance of their countries, because we're still working through that Capricorn energy, which is very much about politics. The liar can also represent shaking and quakes, so there could be some larger quakes in June, and they could be in areas where housing is affected, and they could be in the Tropic of Cancer area, and they might be around the eclipse times and be affected by the moons, either the new moon or the full moon. They could also affect the water or the seas, so they could be quakes that are off coastlines and move the oceans or the water or the sea. So there is a possibility for something along the lines of tsunami warnings or a potential tsunami as well. The Beast card we've talked about briefly. He is often, again, a fiery card, so fires, the red is represented by that quite strongly. He can also be represented by leaders who we think of as being a bit beast-like. I mentioned them before. So again, their agenda may be on the up and up, or the out, or activity, or movement, or information about any of those particular leaders. He can also, this Beast card can also represent volcanic activity. So maybe there will be some quite active volcanoes in the month of June. Very active actually, and can also represent mountains, caves and the underground. Now in terms of the underground, it can be things such as the tube stations or trains that go underground, subways in countries, but it can also represent things like mining or underground energy fields or information that's being kept underground as well. It can also, as I said, represent mountains and activity around mountains, possibly volcanic. Now, if we come to some of the messages I tapped into before the actual reading, I just briefly went across some of the countries, and I started with America. And I got the feeling that there was something cloudy going on. There was also some sadness around, but a degree of preparing to move ahead or change direction. And the number 5 seemed quite relevant, and it seemed to affect the hearts and the emotions of people, which makes sense when we talked about these cards up here that came into play, that we're definitely seeing a very emotional perspective globally for all of the citizens or the collective conscious energy. So emotions are playing a big role in June, and America seems to be part of this emotional activation one way or another. So there's something that happens that it feels like in America that captivates the audience of the people, and there's an emotional tie-in with it. But the whole thing seems cloudy. Now I'm not sure what the cloudiness is. Is it a murkiness around a subject matter, or is it a cloudiness around a person or something individual? I guess we'll have to wait and see how that opens up. I looked at the UK, and because they've had a pretty tough time with all of this business as well, and with their leader Boris, who ended up in hospital and really did have quite a life-changing event happen to him. I think he was quite close to death. Anyhow, there's the cards and the energies that arrived for the UK said that something karmic related to inferring that something that is out of balance could turn up in the news. So it's a very karmic, deep-seated event that's taking place in the background for the UK. And there seems to be tied into a lack of accountability or dishonesty, which may affect politics, laws, or the monarchy. So it may not just be Boris Johnson, but it somehow seems to tie in with their background energy of politics or governance or the monarch or laws one way or another. So there's a big shift that's taking place with the UK, and it's at a really deep level. There's also a degree of deceit around, which may be a prominent marriage or a partnership of some sort. So it could be a personal deceit that is awakened and people go, wow, who would have thought that was going to happen? Or there's deceit within some establishment again, such as the monarchy, laws and governance, or politics. Now, there is possibility that there could be a prominent marriage or wedding or a social occasion which is enjoyed by many and lends a sense of lightness and happiness. And again, this is showing up in these cards here. So some of these cards did come out when I was tapping into energies earlier, and I was quite surprised to see them arrive again. So there's definitely a degree of lightness or celebration or some sort of events for some countries that are really, spurred on, and people enjoy the gaiety and the occasion. So there is that. I've mentioned here again a separation of either a well-known couple or the separation of a legal, political or monarch type subject for the UK. Now then I had a quick look at China, and it appeared to me that their leader, and this is again, the beast card turned up, it seems that Xi Jinping is still holding on strong, and an offer that might be presented to him or from him is not well considered. And that could be, I put here in question marks, the Hong Kong thing, or regards the information around the virus that is currently being, looked into by other global nations around the world. So I still feel he's defensive or feeling quite annoyed about some aspects of politics that are going on around him. I'm also wondering if China has some national celebration, and again, there seems to still be some feeling of jubilation or celebration or something within China. And I have no idea. I don't know if they have any big celebrations in June, but there's also this lightness of being there for them. I get the feeling that they're still feeling isolated and left out of a circle. There may be a second swell of virus activation for them, or negative news about it. Their finances are okay. There appear to be new projects planned for the future, but they're not yet set out, and some countries are not supporting them. So some countries choose to not support them, but I don't think it stops them enough. In some countries, China seems to be forming a marriage with as such, and that could be a marriage of trade or a marriage of partnership with some sort of like alignment or ally or structure. So they're making a partnership thing with someone. I looked at North Korea, and of course we know that Kim Jong-un, their leader, he disappeared in March, and I think he hasn't really been technically seen yet, although they posted photos of him at a composting factory and he was opening the ribbons for that. But the particular place, fertilizer I think it was, but fertilizer can be used for nuclear weaponry, so there could have been a double-edged meaning in that publication from them. But North Korea had some pretty volatile cards actually. In fact, they literally had this one. So something's going on for them there. There's also signs of feminine activity. So I'm wondering if the sister of Kim Jong-un, who they predict, if there's something wrong with him, she will play more of a role, or she will be seen more in the public eye. So there's a possibility of female energy coming through for North Korea. Now, they definitely have explosions, and they literally did get a card very similar to this. So there's some very explosive area for them. There's some very explosive energy for North Korea. And I said, did they let missiles off, or rockets, or something explodes? Or is there a shift in power? And then I even put, is this a shift in nuclear power or energy? Meaning, are they manufacturing something? Are they letting rockets off? Do they deploy something? Or what? I didn't really like North Korea's cards. There's activity, there's stuff going on. With Australia, I got the energy that they are putting out offers, deals, they're formatting financial plans. So they are doing this strategy up here. They're trying to do the work, they're trying to get things going, they're trying to utilize skills that they have. There's some providence from their land, or food, or fertility somehow, or mining even possibly. So whether or not they manage to crank things up again a little bit for their economy, there's something quite positive in the background for Australia. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. There's a feeling that there's this burnout or stagnation or contemplation mode as well, as if something has to change or give way or fall apart. But there's things happening on one hand, and on the other hand, it's almost like they're weighing each other up, or they're crossing each other off. There's also a question of, do females in Australia come into the play? It's females in politics somehow, and there aren't many at the moment. And also around Scott Morrison, there could be some deceit or emotional issues, and it could be that the eclipse might be really hard on him, or he is, I don't know, something happens to him maybe emotionally or personally around the time of the eclipse, or maybe something happens to their governance or their political parties or the stability of them around that time. Something hidden, some hidden issues come to the surface, and possibly in cabinet for Australia. So I then had a quick look at Russia, and I had a look at Putin, and all action. You know, there's plenty of stuff going on with him. It never really stops. There's work, movement, deals, and I questioned, is it deals with people like China or North Korea? The finances might be tight, and I feel as if he really has to dig deep to give money out, and it's probably to help citizens who are struggling. So it's like the handout state. You have to increase the amount of money given out. And I had just assumed it was to his own people, but I don't know if it's to another country, whether he stands up and backs, you know, some of his fellow cohorts such as China or North Korea. I'm unsure. I had a look at South Africa, and it was really difficult to read. There's just a lot going on with South Africa. They got some really big energies coming on, deep energies, a little bit like the Stars card. It's like there's something happening in the background, and it's very difficult to comprehend exactly what it is, because I think it's a big event that's taking place, and it's not just June. So the whole of South Africa's energy field is changing. There's a lot going on. What could happen is that it could be an opportunity to grab a period of change that pushes them in a new direction. Now, I don't know what causes this. Is it a change in their political infrastructure or their financial infrastructure, or something in their land or their people? Is it a change in their energy field? Some of it may be swift action, and it could be that it's unexpected, but overall, eventually it's for the better or the greater good. And those were messages that came in. I had a quick look for New Zealand, and it seems as though we get accolades, or we have achievements. There's a balance of some sort of justice or rewards. There's possibly also a change in direction or things at a crossroads. We still feel maybe isolated, and of course we are, way down here in the southern Pacific Ocean, all on our own. And for now, our borders remain tightly closed. So we're not open for visitors as such. We're still hibernating on our own. Even though we have a lot more freedom now, we're not intermingling a lot. And so our citizens probably won't be travelling a lot, and we won't be receiving many travellers. But there's definitely something about receiving an accolade or someone's watching us or watching what we're doing. And I have a feeling it's the way we've handled the whole last 3 months and the policies that we put in place. So that may play a role for other countries or in something we do moving forward. It could even be in something to do with the scientific research or something else. I did see that we have issues around water, and we are in a very big drought at the moment, and especially in the North Island. So water is a main issue for New Zealand, but it may also be that we have quakes going on, and they may be in areas where there are rivers or seas or on our coasts. And these may be where the quakes are related to. So other than that, I mean, I haven't looked into every country I'm aware. This is only a monthly prediction anyhow, but I thought I would make it a slightly longer event because it's been a while since I've been online, and we are in a very active year with so much going on, and I thought it might be interesting for those of you who tune in to hear a little bit more in depth about what is going on around the place. Hopefully we've covered off enough information that's come in. It does seem to be quite an aggressive month. There definitely is movement taking place. The eclipses play a role, as do the retrograde planets and the conjunctions. So our emotions are awakened. There is plenty of political and government stuff going on in the background as well. But overall, we see movement and activity, and our emotions being capitulated into action one way or another. So thank you all again for joining me. I love it when you leave your comments, especially with this reading, because how you guys perceive the events that are happening, or what you may have experienced yourself personally, or how you interpret the cards, is really powerful. So everyone's input goes toward the whole overall reading anyhow. So yeah, leave your comments, feel free to add them. All sorts of interpretations of the cards are always welcome as well. So I hope that you are all safe and well wherever you are, and that you are forging ahead with the rest of this year. If any of you are looking for a personal reading, I am available for them. You can make contact with me through my email address. I'm also doing Reiki healing work as well. So good luck everyone with moving into June, and I look forward to connecting with you all again later. Much love, be safe, be well. Namaste.